celebration of Veterans Day, live from West Bloomfield Middle School. It's the 6th annual Heroes Appreciation Breakfast.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this year's Hero Breakfast. We gather here today to share a meal in our most profound respect and gratitude for the men and women who have served our great nation. Please, if you are able, join me by rising as the West Bloomfield Police and Fire Honor Guard presents our nation's colors and remain standing for the playing of the national anthem by the Kalkaska Quartet, followed by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Post colors. Post. Present. Post. Order. Halt. Right. Peace. Over. Now. As you take your seats, how about a round of applause for the West Bloomfield Police and Fire Honor Guard and our Kalkaska String Quartet. And please be seated. It is often said that gratitude is a memory of the heart. And today, our hearts are full as we remember and honor the sacrifices made by our veterans. In the words of President John F. Kennedy, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Today, we extend our heartfelt thanks to the brave individuals from all branches of the armed forces. To the Army, who stands as the backbone of our defense, defending us on land. To the Navy, who secures the freedom across the world's oceans. To the Air Force, guardians of the skies, who provide us with the wings to soar above adversity. to the Marines, our rapid response force, always the first to confront challenges head on, and to the Coast Guard, who safeguards our waters and protects our shores. Each branch, unique in its mission, but united in purpose to defend the liberties we hold so dear. And let's not forget our newest addition to the family, the Space Force. They say the sky's the limit, but apparently we've decided that's just not quite far enough, so here's to defending the final frontier. We would be remiss if we did not also extend our deepest gratitude to the family members and spouses who have been the pillars of strength and support. Your sacrifices, often made in silence, have maintained the home front while our loved ones were away. And for those who have cared for the injured soldiers upon their return, your love and support have been the unsung anthems of resilience and recovery. Your service has protected our freedoms and served as a beacon of courage and commitment. You have shown us that the call to serve is not just momentary, but an act of lifelong dedication to the values that make this country great. Today, we are not merely attendees at a breakfast, we are witness to heroism, to sacrifice that often go unnoticed, and a level of commitment that transcends words. We are here to thank you and reaffirm our commitment to live by the principles you fought for. So let us not just express gratitude in words, but let us commit to actions and reflect the values you have upheld. Let this gathering serve as a reminder that our work is not done and that each of us has a role to play in serving our community, our nation, and each other. Thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and for being the heroes that you are. To honor those who have sacrificed and are not able to be with us here today, I invite Patty and Tony Soma, advocates for the prisoner of war, to the stage.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Good morning. Thank you, West Bloomfield, for inviting us to this wonderful event.
We are Tony and Patty Soma, representing the POW MAA Committee of Michigan and our family.
To our veterans, thank you for your service.
Here are some numbers for you. 1,578, 48, 1.
These are not lotto numbers, but they are numbers to remember.
1,578 are U.S. service personnel missing in action from Vietnam. 48 of those are from Michigan, and 1 is from my family, my cousin Marty Masucci. The POW MIA issue became personal to my family on Friday, October 1st, 1965. My cousin, U.S. Air Force First Lieutenant Martin Masucci, was the backseater in a Phantom F-4C that was part of a 3-aircraft reconnaissance mission along Route 155 in North Vietnam. Captain Charles Scharf was the pilot. When they were near their target, the aircraft was struck by an anti-aircraft fire and began to burn. A mayday call was transmitted and their wingmen advised them to bail out. The wingman observed that a parachute had opened. As he focused his attention on the descending parachute, the aircraft continued on for several kilometers before impacting against the side of Swung Mountain. The chute that opened was observed descending behind a hill and touched down on open level terrain. The 2 members of the recon mission circled the area for approximately 10 minutes, attempting a radio and visual contact with the downed crew, but to no avail. At that point in time, my cousin, Marty Masucci, was missing in action. It wasn't until the following Sunday, October 3rd, 1965, that my father had gathered our family together to tell us what had happened. I was 11 at the time, and I remember it like it was yesterday. We were very close to our Masucci cousins, and it hit us all hard. For the next several months, we would ask my father what was the latest on Marty's case. He told us the feeling was that it was Marty who had parachuted, but there was never much more information. And while Marty was always in our hearts and minds, it wasn't until the end of the Vietnam War that he was once again in the forefront. We had heard the news that the POWs were released and prayed that Marty was among them. But again, it was not to be. Marty was not among the POWs that were released from Vietnam. Fast forward to today, and we still do not have a definitive answer. Although we have learned many facts, our government is actively exploring crash sites in North Vietnam. They have located and investigated the crash site of the F-4C that my cousin was in, and they found enough DNA evidence to determine that Captain Sharp was in the aircraft when it crashed. There was no evidence that was Marty in the aircraft when it crashed, so it's safe to assume that Marty was the one that parachuted that day. So we continue. We wait and we pray. The mantra of the POW MIA issue is to never forget and never give up, and that is what we do, and that is why we're here today.
Americans should never forget the brave men and women who answered our nation's call and served the cause of freedom in a special way.
As you entered the room, you may have noticed a special table reserved to honor our missing servicemen and women. If you are not familiar with this table, let us explain the meaning.
It's set for one. The empty chair represents Americans who were or are missing from each of the services, including civilians, who join us today in spirit. The table's round to show our everlasting concern. There's a white tablecloth to symbolize the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. A single red rose reminds us of the lives of these Americans and our loved ones and friends who keep the faith, seeking answers. The yellow ribbon symbolizes our continued uncertainty, hope for the return, and determination to account for them. A slice of lemon reminds us of their bitter fate, captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our missing and our families who long for answers after decades of uncertainty. A candle reflects our hope for their return, alive or dead. A Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain us and those lost from our country, founded as one nation under God. There is an inverted glass to symbolize their inability to share a toast. The chair is empty. They're missing.
Please raise your glass now in a toast to honor Americans, POW, MIAs, to the success of our efforts to account for them and to the safety of all now serving our nation.
As we approach our holiday season, please remember those that will not be with their loved ones, whether they be serving to protect our freedom and those that have not come home yet. Raise a glass to them and think of all the families who keep an empty place still at the table and keep the faith. Tell your children and your grandchildren and keep faith alive. Tell the teachers that this is an important part of our history. These are real people from real families, not statistics from a video game. Just this week, the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency released videos for K-12 classroom that teach about the U.S. government, the U.S. military. Veterans, don't forget to check in with your veteran service officer regularly for updates and have your family do the same. And if you have your bracelet, are you still wearing yours? We're wearing ours.
As you exit today, there is a young lady named Heidi who has a bowl of miniature soldiers. Feel free to take one in remembrance. We also have flyers on the table from the Oakland County Veterans Services. Never forget, never give up until they all come home, all 81,333 that are missing since World War II to the present. Thank you.
Tony and Patty, thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker. Please give a very warm welcome for our Heroes Appreciation keynote speaker, Major General Robert Smith III of the U.S. Army.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chief Flynn, for that introduction. Tony and Patty, thank you for that moving words and tribute for us to remember our POWs and MIAs. Thank you again. I wish to thank Kathy Mahone for the invitation and honor to be the speaker for this Heroes Appreciation Breakfast event. Mark Twain once said, God created wars so Americans could learn geography. Right? Think about that. How many of you here knew where Japan was? Germany? Korea? Vietnam? Panama? Afghanistan? And Iraq? Before we were sent there. Think about that. Did Mark Twain possibly have it right? In the honors today, please give a shout out as I call your service. Veterans of the Space Command, the newest command, anyone here? Coast Guard? Did I hear a Coast Guard out there? Okay. Hey, one is just as important as a million. Air Force. Navy. Marine Corps. Army. Yeah. We've honored our veterans here, but I want to recognize one more group for their contribution, the families of veterans. So can I please have anyone who is a family member of a service member stand, please? The family member. Okay. Thank you. Whenever troops, you may say that, whenever troops have been called to action and deployed in support of a mission, they leave behind their spouses, their children, their parents, and all their loved ones. Those family members who have waited on pens and needles for the letters, the phone calls, and the emails from home to tell them their loved ones is safe. They may not carry a rucksack on their back, but they have carried the weight of worrying about their service member, probably the most cumbersome burden anyone can imagine. They carry the burden until their service member returns. Tragically, some never do. Whenever a serviceman person falls in combat, it is the family who suffer most. Just as our veterans have made sacrifices, the family of service members have made sacrifices as well. When we honor veterans, it is only right we thank those family members and honor them for their sacrifice. Again, thank you, families. Okay. Veterans Day, originally known as, you got it. I didn't say it wasn't going to be audience participation. is a federal holiday in the United States observed annually on November 11 for honoring military veterans and the United States Armed Forces who were discharged under conditions other than dishonorable. It coincides with other holidays, including Armistice Day and Remembrance Day, which are commemorated in other countries that mark the anniversary of the end of war. Now, major hostilities of World War I were formally ended at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, when armistice with Germany went into effect. 11, 11, 11. At the urging of major U.S. veterans organizations, Armistice Day was named Veterans Day in 1954. Veterans Day is distinct from Memorial Day, a U.S. public holiday in May. Veterans Day commemorates the service of all U.S. veterans, while commemorating all such servants, while Memorial Day honors those who have died while in military service. Another military holiday that also occurs in May is Armed Forces Day. Honors those currently serving in the U.S. military. Now, additionally, Women's Veterans Day is recognized by a growing number of U.S. states that specifically honors women who have served in the U.S. military. In 1945, World War II veteran Raymond Weeks from Birmingham, Alabama, had the idea to expand Armistice Day to celebrate all veterans, not just those who died in World War I. Weeks led a delegation to President then General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who supported the idea of a National Veterans Day. Weeks led the first national celebration in 1947 in Alabama. Our veterans are fathers and mothers, sons and daughters who became warriors and heroes. Urging soldiers to continue to fight for freedom, the great patriot Thomas Paine wrote his own moving call to duty. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. In the United States House of Representatives, a request to the President of the United States is being sent to change the thank you to a veteran from thank you for your service to thank you for our freedom. That is currently working in the U.S. House of Representatives. And it is a Michigander congressman that is leading that request from the 1st Congressional District of Michigan. Another quotation to honor veterans is from Father Dennis Edward O'Brien, Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the campus organizer, who gives us the freedom to demonstrate. It is the soldier whose flag, who salutes the flag, who serves under the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allow the protesters to burn the flag. The Michigan Military and Veterans Hall of Honor is a 501c3 organization created by a joint resolution of the Governor's Office and the state of Michigan's Senate and House of Representatives. Its mission is to recognize Michigan's most distinguished service members and veterans through a Hall of Honor induction, while creating a means and location to educate future generations of Michigan's military legacy. To educate Michigan citizens, and particularly young people, about the military and civic service of state veterans in order to inspire a sense of pride, patriotism, and civic virtue. To promote through scholarship grants and other means the research and teaching of Michigan military heritage and the importance of military service to citizenships throughout the state. It has a vision to create a Hall of Honor, and it's Hall of Honor versus Hall of Fame, because in the military, we honor. We're not for fame. It's about honor in the military. To create a Hall of Honor for Michigan citizens who have distinguished themselves through military service and or public service as a veteran of the Armed Forces of the United States. All 128 Michigan's Congressional Medal Honor recipients are automatically added to the rolls of inductees. Michigan has 2 inductees who have received 2 Congressional Medal of Honors. 2. Both of them, I think, are from Coldwater, Michigan. Each year, the Michigan Military Veterans Hall of Honor Board of Directors, of which I am the immediate past president of the board, select 12 individuals, 6 for the military category, 6 for the veterans category. Everyone in this room is eligible and encouraged to submit a nomination by going to the Michigan Military and Veterans Hall of Honor website and completing an application. Everyone in this room has the right to nominate, because this is statewide under the governor and the House, Senate, and House of Representatives. And just by going to the website, the Michigan Military and Veterans Hall of Honor website, you can complete an application to have someone inducted into the Hall of Honor in the history of the state of Michigan. A few names you may recognize from the military category. Alexander Jefferson, United States Air Force, Tuskegee Airman, and author of Red Tails. Alda E. Lutz, U.S. Army nurse. There is a medical center in Saginaw named after her by the VA for her contributions. Clifford Worthy, U.S. Army West Point, was a military assistant to the Undersecretary of the Army. Roger B. Chafee, U.S. Navy, an astronaut. In the veterans category, Gerald R. Ford, U.S. Navy, President of the United States. Mike Ilitch, United States Marine Corps, for building a veterans home in Detroit. Linda Woods, United States Air Force, Native American and first female to carry the Eagle Staff for the Native Americans. Michigan has 17 Native American tribes. And in the tradition of the Native Americans, completion of basic training is a path towards becoming a brave on the way to possibly becoming the chief. Completion of basic training. Thomas J. Haas, United States Coast Guard. See, one's important over there. Hazardous material transportation expert and consultant to the United Nations. The first female general in the Marine Corps, not a nurse, not a lawyer, was from Durant, Michigan, and of the Corps. And everybody would recognize under the veterans, Coleman Young, former mayor of Detroit, Michigan, who was also a Tuskegee Airman navigator. I also would like to say some comments about the elephants in the room of a veteran's world. Elephants in the room. PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, healthcare, homelessness, employment, and navigating through the numerous governmental agencies and organizations and benefits afforded to help veterans and their families. Elephants in the room for veterans. Can people relate to that? As a backdrop to some of the genesis and beginnings of the issues above, I've coined a few phrases. First is the pond effect, P-O-N-D. A person leaves their community to enter into military service, where they were the big fish in the pond. Upon arriving at basic training, a bigger pond, and they are no longer the big fish. Or secondarily, they return home after military service and find that things have changed in their hometown pond, to include neighborhoods change and or non-existence. Or there's a replacement big fish in place. What psychological effect does this have on the service personnel? The pond effect. Genie out of the bottle. A person who has been head of a household, which is like a major corporation. I heard a chuckle, but it's true. All the things you have to do in a household. Is deployed, and the spouse or significant other is now forced to take over every aspect of maintaining and running a household. When the veteran returns, he or she may attempt to force that person back into that bottle, which unfortunately has led to statistically higher divorce rates and some veterans, homelessness. Because when you let the genie out of the bottle, and as the story goes, can you get the genie back in? Where is my sergeant? There's another one. A person entering military service 24/7 has a sergeant planning and telling them what to do, sun up, to sundown, to sun up again. How many people can relate to that? No one can relate to that? Were you in the service? When a person is discharged and returns to civilian life, sometimes they are lost and wander aimlessly as they are now a civilian with no sergeant mapping out their next step in life. Because remember, you've been told what to do 24/7. And now you're back in civilian life. In many cases, what? 24 to 48 hours. And you have no one telling you what to do next. Here is where many governmental agencies, organizations, and churches help in veteran reintegration into society and become that sergeant. From West Bloomfield Parks and Rec, Oakland County Veterans Affairs Office, State of Michigan's Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, and the federal government, Department of Veterans Affairs and Department of Labor. All of these are to help veterans, but sometimes help them navigate through these agencies can be a daunting and challenging task to receive proper medical care, job training, and duly earned benefits. How many of you have registered with the Department of Veterans Affairs? You need to all do that. The American Legion, Veterans from Foreign War, VFW, American Veterans, AMVETS, Vietnam Veterans of America, VVA, and Jewish War Veterans all have service officers who play an invaluable part in helping veterans. Please consider becoming a member. I belong to at least 4 of them as life member. There are many other organizations such as the Wounded Warriors, Michigan Veterans Foundation, Vets Returning Home, and Volunteers America who run the gamut of service from healthcare, finding employment, and providing housing while helping veterans and their families with governmental agencies. Many of these agencies need board members. Thus, you, as a non-veteran, and when your people ask, well, how can I help? Joining some of these organizations or being on their board, you can make a difference with these organizations that are helping veterans. And many have started their own foundations and everything. And so thank you for that. Thank you to all the sponsors and the vendors that are here. We appreciate you being here and making a difference with this breakfast. Lastly, churches of all religious denominations provide services to veterans and their families, as do many of the organizations I mentioned above. And if I didn't mention your organization, I'm regret that I did not, but each of you make a contribution to make a difference. Thank you again for affording me an opportunity first for a quick geography reference. We did the shout out and recognition of all military combat arms of the United States of America. We had a standing recognition honoring the families of service personnel. A little of the history of Veterans Day. Thank you for your service to thank you for our freedom. The Michigan Military and Veterans Hall of Honor. And as Ken, please submit nominations. Many of you out there have outstanding deeds, have made a difference in people's lives, whether as a veteran or in your military career. Challenges of reintegration of a veteran back into civilian. The pawn effect. Genie out of the bottle. Where is my sergeant? Agencies and organizations that serve to help veterans and their families with opportunities for each of you, to serve and make a difference. The world needs more men and women who do not have a price at which they can be bought, who do not borrow from integrity to pay for expediency, whose handshake is an ironclad contract, who are not afraid of risk, who are honest in small matters as they are in large ones, whose ambition are big enough to include others, who know how to win with grace and lose with dignity, who do not believe that shrewdness and cunning and ruthlessness are the 3 keys of success, who still have friends they've made 20 years ago, who are not afraid to go against the grain of popular opinion, and do not believe in consensus, who are occasionally wrong and always willing to admit it. In short, the world needs more veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Major General, for sharing your words and experiences with us this morning. We're very grateful. I think as we start to reflect here, I want to share with Kelly, and I know that she's experienced this too through public service in our parks. But I know that our firefighter paramedics, as they're in and out of the homes in West Bloomfield and Sylvan and Kego and Orchard Lake, that when we come into your homes and we see those hints of military service, whether it's a picture on the wall or your cap or a shirt or an emblem, we respect that, and it's an honor to be of public service. When we pass you on the trails or enjoying the parks here in West Bloomfield, it's an honor that you're part of our community, and we celebrate that. And again, we're grateful for you being here today. But before we depart, I think we need to get some updates from the executive director of our parks, and it's just so convenient that she's here on time and on script. So we've achieved that. So Kelly, over to you.
Thank you. All right, in closing today, a few more reminders and remarks, but again, thank you to our speakers and volunteers and our partners at West Bloomfield Library, at the Township, Police and Fire. We could not do this without you. Thank you again for West Bloomfield Schools for hosting in this beautiful space today. Civic Center TV, thank you. Again, you will be able to watch this. Today we're live, but it's recorded for all of eternity, so you can go back and forward to your family and friends. Thank you to Chef Gary and Ann Stevens for the food today. Compliments to the chefs and the kitchen staff. We applaud you. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend gratitude to those who continue to join together to find ways to honor our hometown heroes. We hope that you join us in the spring on March 14th at Connect, our local gathering place for seniors. We're hosting a Veterans Resource Fair in partnership with Oakland County, which includes coffee, resources, and free grocery items. So we hope to have you back. Look in your heroes bag for details on that flyer. A special thank you again to our presenting sponsor, Senior Benefits Plus, and along with everybody still in the back there. So please visit them upon your exit. And don't forget to stop and get your portrait taken. Frameable Faces will take a free portrait for you. We'll have them developed, and they're a great commemorative photo. You'll be able to pick those up from our office in a couple weeks. We'll contact you. And finally, recognition to our wonderful, supportive, kind Fire Chief of West Bloomfield Fire, Greg Flynn, for leading us through the ceremony today.
All right, so I think that brings us down to the most important thing at any one of these events, and that is who gets to take home the centerpiece. All right, my wife has taught me this, and I know this is very important. So we would encourage you to, as you have been having conversation, to enjoy a few more minutes of conversation as we prepare to depart and get our pictures taken. And the person with the birthday closest to today's date is going to get to take those lovely flowers home. It truly has been a pleasure to be the MC for the 2023 Heroes Breakfast. We look forward to seeing so many of you back here this year. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.